first of all, the last 2 weeks were probably the most dramatic 2 weeks in politics that I can recall. I mean, we've had,
It's been 1 week since Biden dropped out.
It's
Harris has been in the race for 1 week.
And 2 weeks ago, Saturday, there was an assassination attempt on Donald Trump.
Who? Oh.
Yeah, that one.
I forgot about that.
His ear is healed, though. But what is perhaps even more stunning than those things that took place is what's on the other side of it. We'll get to the polls that show Harris's approval rating raising. Like I think we had talked about, one thing to have a hypothetical candidate, it's another when they start to campaign.
Yep.
But what I am shocked by is, and we'll talk more specifically about the numbers, Donald Trump's approval rating dropping and JD Vance's approval rating, like, to be introduced to the country. Even Sarah Palin didn't go through something this dramatic. And
she was liked, wasn't she?
She was liked by the Republicans. She didn't seem to be liked by anybody.
Right.
Right.
I mean, he's getting in fights, he's getting in fights with the Barstool Sports guys. We'll get into that. Emma had a great tweet about this. But imagine going on to Fox News, who incidentally, like, Murdoch has set up his whole estate to make sure that the most right wing of his members of his kids gets Fox. Apparently relentlessly going after Kamala Harris in Australia as a way of sort of testing out, she laughs a lot stuff, memes. But this is Fox News. And here's Trey Gowdy. This is the way that he introduces
an interview
with Senator JD Vance.
With the potential VP, not like an introduction to a segment where they would be talking about JD Vance journalistically in a critical manner. This is how he sets up how he's about to speak to JD. I mean, that's what just is astonishing, but yeah.
I've watched that interview many times, and you should too, in full, and draw your own conclusions. When that interview surfaced, two things leapt to my mind. Those of us who talk for a living make mistakes. We say things that in hindsight...
Pause it for a second. He's referring to an interview which we played where he referred to, these politicians as cat ladies.
Childless cat ladies. And that's why they're so miserable, is because all of these women put their career first in the Democrat Party, and that's why they're trying to ruin the country, because they're unhappy.
Yep.
Or better, or not at all. And then I thought about a stormy day at Reagan National Airport where I met two women desperately trying to get home to South America. I was trying to get home to South Carolina. We spent the whole day together, finally making it to Charlotte, and then somehow we got them on a flight to Houston. They were headed to visit family in South America before returning to their new home called America. And when we parted ways, they said they'd like to pray for me as their way of saying thanks for the day spent together. And I assured them it's too late to help me. But I do have a friend who's expecting, and she got some tough news about her unborn child. Would they please pray for her instead? And they did, and they still do to this day. They're Catholic nuns, childless, dedicated to God, love this country, living lives of service to others. And it's not just Catholic nuns. Some of the finest people I know don't have children. Teachers and guidance counselors and lawyers and doctors, and they love other people's children enough to teach and guide and protect and minister to them. Some people choose not to have children. Others desperately want them, but they can't. In a moment, we'll speak with Senator J.D. Vance.
What? There you go. That's the way he intros an interview. This is not just an editorial where he's not going to he is setting up. I mean, it is the perspective that you have if you're watching this show and JD Vance comes on after Trey Gowdy has taken essentially it's like the pulling the goalie or what, like half of the defense staying on the sideline as he just runs down the field.
Yep.
And JD Vance gets brought on, and he starts basically playing defense on his own 5-yard line.
And he also is a Catholic, JD Vance, converted to Catholicism as a part of this kind of new right populism that he's trying to brand himself as. And Leonard Leo and other hardcore Catholics like Josh Hawley are trying to reclaim this kind of very religiously conservative Catholic. I mean, this is what appeals to the Republican base, but regular people are seeing it and they think it's weird. We'll get to that later. But the interview, this is how he goes into this interview with Vance.
So nuns and priests aside, do you agree that there are people who very much love this country and are invested in its future, but they also happen to be childless?
Oh, of course I believe that, Trey. And if you look at the full context of what I said, it's very clear the Democrats have tried to take this thing out of context and blow it out of proportion, which is what they always do, Trey, because they don't have an agenda to run on themselves. And if you look at what the American people are most concerned about, Trey, it's not an out-of-context quip that I made 3 years ago. It's the fact that Kamala Harris, the border czar, opened the American southern border. It's the fact that the Democratic Party has become explicitly anti-family in some of their policies. In fact, you just heard Kamala Harris in a Surface clip recently talk about how it was a bad idea to have kids because of climate change anxiety. So really what I'm trying to get at here, Trey, is that it's important for us to be pro-family as a country. Of course, for a whole host of reasons, it's not going to work out for some people. We should pray for those people and, of course, have sympathy for them. I still think that that means we should be pro-family, generally speaking, as a party. And I think that our country has become particularly hard for parents, especially under the policies of Kamala Harris.
I mean, pretty hard to make that argument that Trey spent 4 minutes on an intro for your interview when you didn't actually say anything like that. And we have even more clips of him saying it, and we have right-wingers attacking him for saying, wait a second, why would you get special treatment if you have kids in this society? The idea, I mean, and people should understand that this isn't just about him. I mean, and again, we will, talk about the whole weird push. But the idea behind saying that you don't have the same stake in the country, that you shouldn't have the same amount of votes, that you shouldn't have the ability to be a leader of a country if you don't have a natural born child, right? Because, Kamala Harris has stepkids. This is like the root of nationalism and bigotry and this idea that you can't possibly care about other people and their future if they're not your offspring. They're not like genetically tied to you.
Right.
It opens the door for a lack of empathy. It opens the door for otherizing people. It opens the door. This is their way of, rehashing it doesn't take a village type of situation. This
It's all
is
about
their
the nuclear family.
Anti-communalism.
Yep.
This is about the patriarchy. This is all of that is tied up into these issues for them.
And it's about Viktor Orban. It's about a style of politics that Republicans are trying to adopt that Trump has been very promotional of. It's like this bizarre natalism surrounding birth rates, and also about keeping women in the home in this kind of heterosexual traditional familial structure. Kamala Harris can't be really a woman that you can trust, because what is of the value of a woman is if she's able to be a vessel for life. And that's how they view these things. And in the way that, like, we talked about this comparing it to Sarah Palin shored up the base for John McCain, who was perceived as too much of a maverick, too much of someone who worked with Democrats. And that was a way, he honestly didn't get blown out by Obama in 2008. This is just doubling down on the most alienating elements of the Republican base with the VP pick. And I think that's been part of why there's been such a strong reaction to it.
And like anything, J.D. Vance is saying what rich people once said about the failures of capitalism, blame it on cultural problems or blame it on the other. Whereas, like, why are people who aren't having kids but want them not having kids? 1/3 of them say finances. That is up 3 times from the previous generation. This is not a mystery, but instead we're going to blame. He started talking about Mexicans coming across the border, or people, immigrants. Exactly. It's because that's fascism.
And later on, he said that Kamala Harris wanted to end the child tax credit. We can play that later as well in that interview. No. The entire Republican Party and Joe Manchin killed the extension of the expanded child tax credit.
J.D. Vance had the opportunity to expand, like, single-handedly. He could have voted for it.
But he did it. Well, actually, I guess he came in 2022, right? So
he's also anti-universal or federal health care, so or a daycare. So yeah, he's
lying.
I guess that was no, the child tax credit. Oh, right. It was of the summer of 2022.
So he's lying. He didn't have an opportunity to put that down on paper. But we know for a fact that Biden and Harris wanted the expanded child tax credit, and we're fighting for it.
And that's the one good thing about Vance. He supports that tax credit. But if you're willing to lie about your opponent supporting it, then can you really be trusted on it? I would say probably not, if that was my only data point.
And when the whole party that he is the VP of is against it and voted against it before he was in power.
It really is stunning. I mean, someone just IM'd that Chuck Schumer's out there going like, well, technically, Trump has the opportunity to drop J.D. Vance from the ticket because the Ohio ballot's not for another 10 days. The idea that you can get away, I mean, I don't think Donald Trump's going to do that. If he did, it would be disastrous for Trump. I mean, it's not like there's somebody else out there that people are like, oh, if Kristi Noem was on the ballot, then I would change my vote. But, and it would just reflect poorly on Trump having made such a disastrous decision.
Yeah.
Because it really is it's your first big decision as president is who your VP is going to be. But the idea that Chuck Schumer is able to even make that comment and have people not go like, what are you talking about? Is just a reflection of just how badly they messed this up. Hey, folks, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and check out our daily show. We do it every day at 12 p.m. Eastern for about 2.5 hours. We even take phone calls. You should check that out.